What is up, everyone? Brandon Ferst, aka First Report, representing the First Off the Bench podcast network. Everyone comes off the bench. We are first. Welcome into another edition of the Changeup here on the network. We break down everything that Major League Baseball has to offer as we get deeper into September, and that means we are just weeks away from the playoffs beginning, which is good news for some teams, and of course, really bad news for others. We'll get to one of those in a bit, but it is time to, of course, introduce my co-host who will be helping me break everything down. Bryanna Winner. You can find Bryanna at bwinner12. Bryanna, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to talk some baseball, even if our teams don't do well.
Yeah, it's been a rough year for both of our teams, or at least now it's been a rough year for both of our teams. It was going better than others, but it's all come back to earth, if you will, at least for the Padres. We'll get to that in a bit. Get the children out of earshot on that, folks. Just giving you a warning there. But we will start. Obviously, look, we'll have the Padre report. We'll have the winner's circle. We'll break down what's going on with the Angels. Our 3 up, 3 down. Gonna look at the playoff picture here in a bit. And of course, some of that craziness that happened in, guess what? New York, more drama in New York. But we will start with, I would say, kind of the big news of the week. And it is Ryan Braun announcing his retirement. This is a guy who burst onto the scene, won Rookie of the Year, and was really one of the elite sluggers in the league for a few years. And then, got popped for steroids, and it all kind of seemed to kind of go downhill from there. But for Ryan Braun, a career that's been tumultuous to say the least, but he has been very, very successful, at least with the Brewers, and only with the Brewers. So I know a lot of people in Milwaukee probably have a soft spot for Ryan Braun. But Bryanna, what are your thoughts on Ryan Braun calling it a career?
I mean, look, he's been in the league for 14 years. So I mean, I'm surprised that some other people haven't retired yet. Pujols, because there are so many people that have been in this league a lot longer that should retire already, but they just want to keep going, whether their bodies tell them to stop or not. I think Braun knew that it was just time once the season was over. I kind of wish he waited till I understand him announcing it now. Is he basically going to retire at the end of the season? Is he going to play with them for playoffs?
I'm not sure. I haven't, to be fair, and I don't look. I'll be the first one to admit I don't get a ton of Milwaukee games here.
He's a free agent. Never mind. He's a free agent.
I don't think
Never mind.
Played this year. I think that was one of the big things that probably pushed him in that direction. I know he only played for Milwaukee. He didn't play anywhere else. It's like I said, injuries have been a big reason why he is in the situation he's in.
I mean, but congrats on the career that he's had. I mean, hopefully maybe the Brewers will pick him up for like the last few weeks, so then he can at least play out in the rest of this city, so then he can get the ovation, the goodbye that he deserves, and maybe get up into a playoff run.
Yeah,
maybe.
I hope that. I mean, look, I'm sure for the Brewers and the storybook ending and the fans, that would be great. I think for the Brewers and what they want to accomplish, I think the most we'll see is him coming out in street clothes, maybe them announcing that they'll retire his number or make it into the Brewers Hall of Fame, whatever that is. I don't know if we'll see him on the field in the playoffs. I think the Brewers would probably not want that to happen for their own, success. There's a reason he's still a free agent, but I think, in Milwaukee, he's definitely viewed a lot differently than around Major League Baseball. Whether for better or worse, whether I'm right or wrong in this, what I'll always remember for Ryan Braun is, he had a great start to his career. And then, we found out about some steroid stuff and was never the same since. So I think it's completely fair to ask the question, what was that? What Ryan Braun did we see from the beginning? Was it a true Ryan Braun, or was it a juiced Ryan Braun? And I think that's fair to ask. I know he'd probably get very frustrated, but you know what? You did it. You made your bed. It's time to lay in it. But like I said, in Milwaukee, I think he will be a Milwaukee Brewer legend, as he should be. for them. There's a reason that people in San Francisco absolutely adore Barry Bonds, because they can forget some of the BS. And that's what fanatics do. That's what fans do. There are plenty of people in the baseball community. The first thing they think of with Ken Caminiti is the same thing, is steroids, is other things. If you're a Padre fan, you think about his MVP season. You think about how great of a player he was, not so much the negatives. That's just how fans are. So for Milwaukee Brewers fans, that hopefully they will, like you said, I agree with you. I think bring him out, give him a Hall of Fame induction, or at least Brewers Hall of Fame induction, maybe retire his number. That might be a bit much, but like you said, congratulations to Ryan Braun. Even, at the very least 14 years in the major leagues, that is nothing to frown upon. And hopefully he's got plenty of money backed up, because he made plenty of money in his career. So moving on, away from retirements and into drama-filled New York. Obviously, this past weekend, we saw the Subway Series, where, of course, the Yankees and Mets met in a 3-game series. Saturday night, obviously, a bigger than baseball a situation for the city of New York. 20 years anniversary of course, those fateful days, fateful day of September 11th, I should say. Great ceremony. Joe Torre, Bobby Valentine throwing out the first pitch. Everyone kind of embracing a great game in the end. And then we go into Sunday, and kind of all that, good feeling and camaraderie went out the window after Giancarlo Stanton hits a big 2-run bomb to tie the game. A lot of chirping going around the bases. The benches end up clearing essentially before Stanton even crosses home plate. Eventually, the Mets would win. I believe it was a Francisco Lindor home run where he was whistling around the bases. Apparently, the Yankees were whistling to call out the pitches. Now, once again, this goes back to the Astros situation. Look, I'll be the first one to admit, if the pitcher is tipping their pitches, that is fair game. If you're using a center field camera to seal signs, that is not fair game. But if you can catch the signs from the catcher, from the dugout, or at second base, you have every prerogative to pass those signs across, but who knows what happened here. But the Yankees and Mets, obviously two teams that have been on downswings, met a lot of emotion this past weekend. But Bryanna, what are your thoughts this past weekend? I don't think you saw too much of the series, but I guess kind of these two teams that have been just on just such a downturn running into each other, it just seemed to kind of fully explode on the field.
I mean, I didn't watch any of it, but you can say this about most rivalries, like Dodgers and Giants, for instance. Like, that wouldn't surprise me if something like this happens in one of those games. Obviously, they know better right now, but in playoffs, you never know. So, I mean, it happens. Even when I was playing, if we were at second base, we'd at least tell the batter where it's going to be placed, not what pitch it is, but if it's going to be inside, outside. And we would just do that by putting our arm out in the direction that it's going to go. So, I mean, that's fair game. All you're telling them is where it's going to be placed, not what the pitch is.
Yep. I agree. We wouldn't use hand signals. We'd just yell India or Oscar for inside or outside. But yeah, it's fair game. Once again, it's not the Houston Astros wearing,
trash cans.
The trash cans, and then the buzzers underneath their jerseys. I mean, that's a little different once again. But at the end of the day, I will also say for the Astros, there is 0.0 chance that the Houston Astros were the only team doing this. They were just the only ones who got caught, really. I mean, the Yankees did get caught as well, but Major League Baseball swept it under the rug very quickly because it is the Yankees, of course. But for this series, and that's a great point you bring up with the rivalry, because it is that rivalry. They obviously don't play a ton, but it is kind of, at least for the Mets, I think it's definitely more of a rivalry for the Mets. The Yankees are kind of, they always feel that they're better than everybody, no matter what, and especially better than the Mets. The Mets are kind of the redheaded stepchild, not only of Major League Baseball and Yankees fans, but also the whole city of New York. But for the Yankees, their demise has been even more ridiculous than the Mets. The Mets can at least look at the fact that, hey, DeGrom was out. He's been out for a while. But we will see what both of these teams have for the future. Neither team really expect to be a playoff caliber team. The Yankees, much better opportunity. The Mets, a lot of work to do in that category. But that is a great segue into the playoff picture, as we will start in the American League. That American League East is pretty much wrapped up. The Tampa Bay Rays have a 9-game lead on all three of the other teams competing in that division: the Yankees, Blue Jays, and Red Sox. And then, look, the Baltimore Orioles are 43.5 games back. Not a huge surprise there, but the Yankees, Blue Jays, and Red Sox are fighting for wild card supremacy right now. The American League Central, another division that's wrapped up. The Chicago White Sox have a 12.5 game lead on the Indians. And then it will go Detroit, Kansas City, and the biggest disappointment in all of baseball, the Minnesota Twins. And finally, much to the chagrin of this podcast and most baseball fans, the Houston Astros seem on their way to win another American League West title. They have a 6.5 game lead on the very, very surprising Seattle Mariners, 7 up on the Oakland A's, 14 on the Angels, and 30 on the Rangers. In terms of the wild card in the American League, it is the Yankees, Blue Jays, and Red Sox, a 3-way tie there. Seattle is 3 back, and Oakland is 3.5 back, and that is about all that is that can compete in that division.
Well, if we look at who in the American League West, who the Astros and the Mariners will face, they don't face each other, but both have to face the A's. This Mariners have to face the Royals and the Angels. Obviously, the Astros play the Angels again next week, and I'll get to that. But they also have to go past. They're playing Rangers right now, the Diamondbacks, the A's, then Tampa Bay, and then the A's again. So there's a chance.
Yeah. It would definitely take a huge run here in the last 20 games. But you're right, there is a chance they're going to get chances at them. So are the A's as well. The A's are 3-7 in their last 10, even Seattle 5-5. But I do wonder for Seattle if it's just kind of easier to look at the other, the wild card, maybe a little easier route. I don't know if it's easier, but at least a shorter route. Hope that the American League East teams somehow beat themselves into a coma, and you get only one of those, and you can sneak your way in. But really surprising. The American League, pretty much every division is essentially, at least the East and the Central, wrapped up. The West nearly there. But the wild card is really going to be very, very interesting, even if it is just those 3 American League East teams fighting it out. But moving on to the National League side of things, we'll start in the National League East. The Atlanta Braves have a 4.5 game lead on the Philadelphia Phillies and a 5.5 game lead on the Mets. The Marlins and Nationals are well off the lead. But in the National League East, the Braves have obviously been playing very good baseball over the last 6 weeks, not so much of late. You really expected them to kind of run away with things. The Phillies have struggled as well. They just, for whatever reason, cannot beat the Cubs for, I can't explain it. It's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, Bryanna loves it. And then
even if the Cubs are out of it, I'm loving it.
Oh yeah, well, it's spoiler. If you're a team that's down low, you're a spoiler right now. And if you're not a fan of Philadelphia, you probably hate Philadelphia. So I can understand it. As a fan of Philadelphia, I don't agree with it, but I definitely understand it. And then, like I said, the Mets are just really looking at Jacob deGrom. Somehow, some way, can you come back and put something together? But even then, I don't think it will be enough. In the Central, another division that's fully wrapped up. The Milwaukee Brewers are going to make me money, as I had that futures bet at the beginning of the year. The Milwaukee Brewers, 13.5 game lead on the St. Louis Cardinals, 14 up on the Reds. And then the Cubs and Pirates rounded out. I will say the Cubs have kind of, I guess, righted the ship at least somewhat. They're not going to be anywhere near 500, but they're not going to lose 100 games. They're going to be a lot better than the Pirates. So at least there's somewhat to be happy about there. What you're not happy about, at least if you're a Padre fan, is the National League West. The San Francisco Giants are on a tear. We'll get to that in a bit, but they have a 2.5 game lead on the Dodgers. The Padres are 20.5 games back, 28 games back for the Rockies, and Arizona is a cool 48 games back, riding a wonderful 2-8 in their last 10 for them. In the wild card picture, The Dodgers fully wrapped up wild card number 2. Both the Giants and Dodgers, the only 2 teams in all of Major League Baseball who have clinched a playoff spot. The Cardinals would head to Chavez Ravine. They have a half-game lead on the Reds and a game lead on the Padres. 3 games up on the Phillies, 4 games up on the Mets. So the National League wild card and American League wild card, really probably the only 2 things that are up in the air. The Dodgers want to run down the Giants, but they're done playing them. And the way the Giants are playing, I can't see how they fall apart. But that is technically the closest division, even though both of those teams will be going to the playoffs regardless. But Bryanna, your thoughts on the outlook of the National League?
I don't like it. Specifically the wild card. I don't like it. And I was talking to one of my Dodger friends yesterday, and he was like, we have the second best record. So like this first wild card isn't okay. I'm like, too bad. I don't care. But going off of the 100 losses, who do you think is going to get it first, Arizona or Orioles? Because they're both at 98.
I would honestly, let me see real quick. Let me just see who everyone's playing, just because that's a big deal. I know that I believe the Diamondbacks just got done with the Dodgers. No, they have 1 game.
No, they have 1 more, and then they have the Astros.
Okay, yeah. So I'm gonna go with the Diamondbacks. I really do think the Diamondbacks are gonna hit that 100 loss first.
But the Orioles are playing the Yankees now, and then the Red Sox.
Yeah, I'm still sticking with the Diamondbacks. I don't know. I feel like the Yankees and Red Sox, this is their perfect opportunity to somehow lose 2 out of 3 to the Orioles. Those are 2 teams that are scuffling. The Dodgers don't miss. They know they have to beat up on these teams, and the Astros too. Like we talked about, they can't afford to lose 2 out of 3 to anybody, because the Mariners are playing good ball, but they're both easily going to hit 100 losses, might even get 110. But let me ask you this: I'll take it one further. Who has the best, or who has the worst record in your mind at the end?
That's a toss up.
Yeah,
because they both suck.
Yeah, and they're both running up against some good teams towards the end. So
I can't answer that now, at least.
All righty. Well, it is time to head into the winner's circle. Bryanna is going to let us know what's going on with the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Bryanna, the floor is yours.
I still hate this. They're 4-6 in their last 10. They are going to be stuck in 4th the rest of the season. They went 1-2 against the Astros, 0-1 against the White Sox since our last podcast. So on Friday's 10-5 loss, Ohtani did go 1 for 1 with his 44th home run, but he struggled defensively as he was the starting pitcher. He only pitched 3 1/3. Gave up 9 hits, 6 runs, and 1 strikeout. Luckily, there were no walks. So that's still a good sign, but still. And then Walsh would homer in the last inning. Walsh would homer, and that was the last inning they would lead, which was the first inning, I believe. In Saturday's 4-2 loss, Rengifo had a 2-run home run. All 4 of their runs came by the 3rd inning. Suarez pitched 5 2/3, gave up 3 hits, 1 run, 3 walks, and 7 strikeouts. Hey, even if there's walks, it's fine because he had more strikeouts.
Yep.
And he only gave up 1 run. Sunday's 3-1 loss, Garza's home run in the 5th was the only run of the game for the Angels. Now, here is the part that I hate. Barria pitched 4 innings, gave up 4 hits, 1 run, 4 walks, and 6 strikeouts. But he at least held the Astros. The pitcher that would come in right for him, Quijada, let the game slip in only 1 inning. Like, the starting pitchers are doing well. It's just their bullpen is just struggling. And I feel like Barria should have stayed in the game for at least a little longer before letting somebody else do it. Because, look, your lead literally went away because of that one pitcher. Your starting pitcher did not let any runs come in after that first one. I mean, look at the Rays last year and what happened. And I'm going to keep going to that because that was the worst decision that could have ever been made. So in yesterday's loss to the White Sox. It was a 9-3 game. Gosselin homered in the first. Walsh hit a 2-run home run in the fourth. That was all their offense. Naughton made his second career start. He pitched 2 2/3, gave up 6 hits, 4 runs, 1 walk, and 2 strikeouts. Look, he only got his first career start at the beginning of September. So I think this is still going to be nerves. I mean, you're playing one of the best teams in the American League. That was enough pressure on him already. So I feel like he'll do better in the future. There's nothing really he could have done. Obviously, it was going to be nerves. Obviously, the White Sox were going to just run. Hopefully, the rest of the series won't turn out that way, as the Angels are going to be facing the White Sox today and tomorrow. Then they have the A's Friday through Sunday, and then the Astros Monday through Wednesday. I don't like this upcoming week. And now I'm going to mute while we're in the Padres report because I know there's going to be things said. And I'm not going to get in the middle of it.
Yeah. Look, you said the worst thing ever, worst decision ever. I got a few other worst decisions ever, at least for the Padres. And it's gotten bad, folks. I have 3 notes that I wrote down. Normally I have somewhat of a structure to this, talk about, where they are in the playoff picture, what has happened over the past week and what is looking ahead. None of that matters anymore, folks. It's over. It's done. The Padres are, if they don't care, why should the fans? Everybody not named Machado and Tatis is sleepwalking, and they don't really care who sees or who is aware of the fact that they don't care. And it starts at the top. Jace Tingler needs to go, and he needs to get out of San Diego as fast as humanly possible. I'll help him pack. He might, lose a couple things in the process because I just throw him around out of just pure frustration. But Jace Tingler has been a terrible manager for the San Diego Padres over the last 2 months. At the very least, he's been a terrible manager for longer. However, the team has always been able there to pick him up in one way or another. The Padres are in the midst of a 5-game losing streak after being swept by the Dodgers and getting absolutely annihilated in the first 2 games against the San Francisco Giants, in which they had absolutely no shot of winning the baseball game. Eric Hosmer is showing himself as the worst baseball player, making $15 million or more a year. Nobody else in Major League Baseball, now that Chris Davis has retired, even though he's still getting paid, Chris Davis has retired. The worst contract in all of baseball right now is Eric Hosmer. And he's going to whine and cry about how the people of San Diego give him a hard time. I'm batting .270 and I have 11 home runs. You're making $18 million a year and you have a WAR of 1. Eric Hosmer cannot do anything right. There is a full 2.5-minute clip of him either missing pop flies on the infield, missing ground balls, routine ground balls, or grounding into double plays. This is a guy who was a line drive hitter before he came to San Diego, now refuses to hit the ball on a line drive. He will drive the ball into the ground until his death. It is ridiculous to see how this team is still even talked about in a playoff picture. They have been terrible over the last 2 months, and nobody to blame more so than Jace Tingler. Now, Snell's gone. Paddock's back on the DL. We're literally looking at Jake Arrieta, Darvish is back to 5 years ago, Darvish, and refuses to pitch the ball like a major league pitcher. This guy gave up 5 runs in the first inning the other day and was laughing about it. I'm done with this team. I am done with every single player that is not named Fernando Tatis and Manny Machado. The only thing Padre fans have to look forward to is whether or not Tatis will win the MVP or not. Everything else, it's done. It's over with. Jace Tingler can come up on the post-game press conference and blind us with his bald head and complete lack of ability to run a Major League Baseball team. He's got to go. AJ Preller is done. I know that he's sitting there and that Jace Tingler is his best friend, and it's probably a package deal, but Jace cannot be here next year. My only regret in life right now is that I probably won't be able to go to another Padre game, so I can sit right behind the Padres dugout and eventually get kicked out, but just really let these guys know how I feel and how all of San Diego feels, because that's my biggest concern, my biggest frustration with San Diego as a whole, at least the fans. You're way too soft, way too soft. You're going to sit here and cheer Eric Hosmer and Adam Frazier and go, you know what? They wear my jersey or my team's jersey, so I'm going to be nice to them. That's fine. You can take that stance. But when they don't ever win, that's why. No one in this city has the backbone to stand up to this ownership group and say, you know what? You've spent money. Fantastic. But you're stupid. You put all the faith into Jace Tingler, who the only reason he was hired was because he was AJ Preller's buddy and he spoke Spanish. So the only two reasons. The only two reasons. I'm done with this ownership group. I'm done with this front office, and I'm done with this management team. I'm done with this baseball team. Anybody not named Machado or Tatis. Everyone else can go kick rocks off the Coronado Bridge. I'm done. Moving on. 2, 3 up, 3 down. Take a deep breath. All righty. So moving on to the ups. I was in charge of the ups. We're going to turn things into positivity now as I take a deep breath. I guess somewhat positive. A team that I think both of us really, really enjoy watching. It's the Toronto Blue Jays. They are the first team that's on the up. Obviously, last week they really got rolling when they swept the Yankees in a 4-game series at Yankee Stadium. It was the first time since 1908 the New York Yankees had played a 4-game series against any team at Yankee Stadium, lost all 4, and never led in any of those 4 games. So the Toronto Blue Jays have moved all the way into playoff contention. Bryanna, what are your thoughts on the Toronto Blue Jays as our first up of the week?
I mean, I think I had them in second, actually. So I'm actually a little happy about this. And as long as it's not the Yankees, I'm happy. Agreed. So obviously they're 8-2 in their last 10. They're in this 3-way tie for second, which is obviously annoying for everybody. And they're only 9 games back of the Rays, which could be said about our down as well, our next down, as well as one of our other downs, because why not?
Yeah, it's very similar to when you're on an elevator, right? Eventually you're both gonna be at the same floor, except one of you is going up and the other one's going down. That's kind of how we are with actually these next 2 downs, but we'll start with the second down. Bryanna, why don't you give it to us? Our first down, I should say, sorry.
The first down is going to be the lovely Boston Red Sox. Look, they started off strong, and then the second half of the season has not done them any favors. They are 4-6 in their last 10. They basically are in that same tie for second, but look, I feel like should have been in first with how they were playing, but we knew at some point it was just going to come crashing down. I believe I had them in fourth. And if you look at their record, it's a little weird because we believe that they played more games than the Yankees and Toronto. So it is what it is. Look, they are also 9 games back of the Rays. Again, I'm happy it's Toronto.
Yeah. I think unless you're a fan of the Yankees or the Red Sox, you're going to be happy at kind of the young up and coming Blue Jays are getting it done. And I think there is not really a big surprise because Toronto has started, I think it was it July 30th, maybe August 1st, something around there when they were able to go home. They were able to go back to Toronto. They don't have to deal with Dunedin or Buffalo or things like that. They're back in their home in Toronto, trying to get back to somewhat normalcy, and it's shown in their play. I believe Vladimir Guerrero hit number 45 last night, might even be up to 46, but this is a kid who unfortunately is only 5 RBIs away from the Triple Crown, and is 7-1 right now to win the MVP. And I even think those numbers are a little ridiculous. Shohei Ohtani has won the MVP. He won the MVP, 2 months ago, but keep going, kid. A great year for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Hopefully one of these years he'll get a chance to get MVP, but it's not going to be this year. But the Toronto Blue Jays are moving up. The Boston Red Sox moving down. Our second up of the week. A lot of this has to do with how bad the Padres have been, and it's the San Francisco Giants. Obviously, they've taken the first 2 against the Padres in their 4-game set. This is a Giants team that is not only the best record in all of baseball, but they've also won 9 straight ball games, 9-1 in their last 10. They're 95-50. As I said, best record in all of baseball, still a 2.5 game lead on those Dodgers. So it's not fully wrapped up. That's going to be a really interesting run to the end. But for the San Francisco Giants, they obviously 2 more against the Padres, and they don't have to play the Dodgers anymore. So they got to be feeling pretty good. But what are your thoughts on the San Francisco Giants 9-game winning streak?
I mean, they've surprised us this year. Like, neither of us thought they were going to do this well. We thought that they were going to be in third. They've controlled the entire season, and I'm all for it. As long as it's not the Dodgers, I'm all for this.
Yeah, and I'll put my hand up, and I mean, I don't quite remember. I might have had them even lower. I might have had Arizona ahead of them, and I got that one wrong pretty badly. But no one, and I don't care who you are, unless you have a timestamp holding a newspaper talking, pre-April, nobody in their right mind had the Giants A, in first place of the National League West, or B, the best team in all of baseball at this point in the season. I don't care what you've said or anything. I don't believe you, period. If you go out and you say that, I wouldn't believe you. And you're probably lying because, look, no one had the Giants being here, especially at this level. They are a legitimate championship contender, especially if they can take down the Dodgers. Now, I will say the way the playoffs are set up, I do think it's really, really stupid. That essentially the 2 best teams in the National League, it's impossible for them to meet in the National League Championship Series because of the way it's going to be set up. I mean, the Dodgers are the best they can hope for, or the Giants. The best they can hope for is a 4 seed, which if it's the Dodgers, that's just tough luck. But if it's the Giants, that'll be pretty frustrating because that'll be very tough for the Giants to beat the Dodgers in a best of 5. But that's for a couple weeks from now. For the Giants, it's about them just continuing to win, eventually win the division, and take the rest as they go. But the Giants are our second up of the week. What about our second down of the week, Bryanna?
Going back to the American League East, the second down is going to be those damn Yankees. Like, we talked about them being on the up and how we didn't want them on the up. Hey, look, they're in the downs this week. And I mostly did this because the same situation as Boston. They let Toronto come back. They let Toronto come into a 3-way tie for second. And I believe that Toronto will take sole possession of second. I have not looked at who their schedule is, but the Yankees have a tough road. So, I mean, look, they're 3-7 in their last 10. That does not bode well for them. And they are healthy, people. They are fully healthy. If they were injured, if most of their players were injured, I'd be like, okay, this makes sense. They are healthy. Yeah. That's all I've got.
Yeah, the pitching has gone to hell. And then even the hitting, we're kind of seeing what the Yankees do. They just mash the ball, no situational hitting. And I talked about that elevator thing. The Blue Jays are obviously on the ascension elevator. The Red Sox and Yankees, they're sharing an elevator going all the way down at this point because it's looking bad for both of these teams. 2 teams that, and especially for the Yankees, this is a team that won 11 or 12 games just a month ago. And were arguably the hottest team in baseball. People thinking, hey, maybe they win the American League East. Watch out for the Yankees. Now we kind of laugh at them. But, as a Yankee hater, I have no problem laughing at the Yankees. This final up, however, for me is a little tough. I don't even put it down. Bryanna kind of made me put it in. Good on her. But it
Look,
is. Yeah.
You understand why I said that they should have.
And you understand why I tried not
to. And I'm also looking at the Blue Jays schedule, by the way. Uh-huh. They have to finish their series against the Rays. Then they have the Twins. Then they have the Rays and the Twins again. And then the Yankees. And they finish with the Orioles.
Oh my, those are 9 games, 6 with the Twins and 3 with the Orioles. Those are 9 very, very winnable games. And then some Yankee stuff in there. And who knows, the Rays may be packing it in. The Rays may be packing it in, getting ready for the
look, they're 1-1 in the series right now.
Oh, okay.
Their final game of this series is tonight. And then they have them again the 20th through the 22nd.
Interesting. Got it. Yeah. It's going to be very, very interesting to see the Blue Jays kind of hopefully finish things up and get into the playoffs. But the final up, as I said, yeah, Bryanna made me do this, and good on her for doing it. It is the St. Louis Cardinals who passed both the Padres and the Reds. They are now a half game up on the Reds and a full game up on the Padres for that second and final wild card spot. The Cardinals have gotten healthy and they've been playing much better baseball of late. It's unfortunate, but I've kind of feared the Cardinals more than the Reds all year, and it's starting to come true. But the Cardinals into that second wild card spot. Bryanna, what are your thoughts?
I mean, they're 6-4 in their last 10. I mean, we'll talk about the Reds in a second, but they're a half a game up on the Reds. And after seeing the Reds play in person, they should not have the wild card. I'm sorry, but the Reds should not get the wild card. And I know when I was in Chicago, you were happy that the Cubs are beating the Reds, but your Padres have started to become a dumpster fire and have ruined that opportunity. And I'm sorry. And I'm probably going to say it about your Eagles later.
Whoa,
later in the season. Later in the season. Whoa, I know you guys are the only team that won. I know you're the only team that won. Later in the season. You know you're in the worst division of the league. Don't go there.
We'll see. I mean, we're in first place of that division. Wow.
Because you're the only team that won.
Wow. Folks, I'm on high alert now. I was ready. I was ready for certain shots to come through. I was not ready for that one.
It's still early in the season.
I love it though. Yeah, I mean, we shall see. It's still very early. Definitely caught my attention on that one. And yeah, it is for the Cardinals. When you did go and see the Reds, that's when it kind of mattered for the Padres. And you said the Padres have started to become a dumpster fire. This is a dumpster fire that is out of control and is actually running into other dumpsters and lighting them on fire. Maybe even people inside of those dumpsters, it's getting that bad. But yeah, for the Cardinals, they're looking like the team that is going to get a chance to beat the Dodgers or the Giants. Hopefully the Dodgers. And I tell you what, if the Cardinals can get that wild card spot, the Dodgers better watch out, especially if Flaherty can get back healthy. That would be very, very interesting. But Bryanna, we already kind of alluded to it, but what is our final down of the week?
This final down is much deserved. It's going to the Cincinnati Reds. Like, they've allowed St. Louis to take second in the National League Central. And a while ago, it looked like the Cardinals were never going to come back from it. The Reds are 3-7 in their last 10 and are only half a game behind. Again, I saw them in person. They're nothing special. They're not that great. The Cubs did get lucky, but again, nothing special. And I don't believe they should have a wild card spot.
I agree with you. They're a big hitting team, but they cannot beat the Dodgers. They will not be able to beat the Dodgers or the Giants for that matter. I think the Cardinals can and possibly will, at least with the Dodgers side of things. Ideally, the Giants hold on to things. They win the West and the Dodgers somehow kind of, we go back to that about 3 or 4 years back when the Nationals were relevant and they had that game 5 and, Howie Kendrick hits the grand slam to kind of blow it open. Hopefully something like that can happen. But for the Reds, I think mercifully for all of baseball fans, they're kind of dead. It's over. It's done. Like the Padres, unfortunately. But it is the Cardinals wild card to lose, essentially, in my mind. The Reds do have somewhat of an easy schedule. They're playing, I think, some of the bottom teams in the National League Central. However, if you can't beat them, that doesn't matter. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this kind of goes down. We're about 3 weeks away from the end. This marathon is finishing up very quickly. Some of these teams have already at least hit the finish line. We'll see how everything else goes. But Bryanna, what are your final thoughts as we wrap up another edition of the Changeup?
Well, I'm currently trying to get to the Reds schedule. Oh, well, the Reds are playing the Pirates right now. So you never know. And then they have the Dodgers and then the Pirates again, and then the Nationals, the White Sox, and then they finish with the Pirates. So we never know. They're playing some horrible teams. And then St. Louis, they have to play the Cubs, and they do have a doubleheader this week too, or in the next few weeks. They have to finish their series against the Mets. Then they have you. And then the Brewers for a good chunk of time, the Cubs at the end of the season. So basically, they're both pretty even about who
Yeah.
they're playing. I mean, the Reds got lucky that they're finishing with the Pirates. Again, I don't see them as a wild card team.
No, they shouldn't be. I don't think they deserve it. And that's just an opportunity now for, once again, I really do think it's going to be, and don't count out the Phillies. The Phillies are still somewhat there. I am going to count out the Mets. I know their sign is somewhat there as well, but the Mets have way too much drama going on, I believe. But we will see as we get down to the end here. Like I said, about 3 weeks to go, and then we will know who will be fighting for that championship and hopefully dethrone the Dodgers. So we'll see how that goes. But that is all we have for you today here on the Changeup, presented by the First Off the Bench Podcast Network. Everyone comes off the bench, but we are first. Thank you all very much. Thank you all so much for listening. Don't forget to go wash your hands and stop hating everybody. We'll talk to you all very soon. Take care.